Welcome back to Book Club. I'm still kind of blown away by the response to our last pick. Um, who knew that a self-help book, centered around 25 quotes could be so wildly popular?
25 quotes that will change your life. It was a surprise hit, wasn't it? I mean, Lee Murphy, gotta hand it to him. He seems to have a real knack for capturing, what people are, thinking about these days.
Yeah, he does. It's interesting, and for this deep dive, we're tackling his brand new release, Shadows of Deception. Talk about a genre jump. From feel-good quotes to, like, a full-blown thriller. I'm ready to unpack this one. What do you think? What do you make of this big creative shift?
Oh, it's a bold move, no doubt. But, if you think about it, there's this thread of social commentary running through both books. In 25 quotes, it was about personal empowerment.
Right.
But in Shadows of Deception, it's, I think, more about recognizing those systems of control that might be operating around us,
Yeah.
even within us.
That's interesting. Okay, so how does he introduce this theme?
Well, we meet Rob Stafford, our protagonist, and he's returning to his hometown, this seemingly quiet town, Richmond, Kentucky, after spending some time with the CIA. And right off the bat, the Richmond Army Depot is presented as this kind of looming presence, this ominous presence. It's not just a storage site for chemical weapons. It represents something bigger, something faceless, an authority that the townspeople feel totally powerless against.
So the depot is like symbolic right from the beginning.
Absolutely. And Lee uses Rob's, CIA background really cleverly to heighten that sense of unease because he's trained to spot these little subtle signs of trouble, right? So right away, he starts noticing those strange lights. He hears these hushed whispers about, military experiments. And there's this palpable fear that you can just sense among the locals. And it creates this sense of dread, like something sinister is bubbling under the surface of this, seemingly idyllic town.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. It's like that saying, like a duck on a pond appearing calm while underneath.
Paddling furiously.
Paddling curiously. Yeah. Okay, I love how Lee uses setting to create that atmosphere. And speaking of subtle signs, we have that town meeting, right? Where the residents, they voice their concerns, and it's interesting. What do you think Lee's trying to say with this?
I think it's a really insightful look at how power dynamics play out in a small community. These residents, they feel unheard, ignored, like nobody in a position of authority is listening to them. And that just creates a space where fear and suspicion can really take root. Lee, I think, is commenting on the dangers of government secrecy, right? And how it can just erode trust and give rise to these conspiracy theories.
Okay, so are we supposed to believe those theories, or is Lee kind of leading us down a rabbit hole here?
See, that's the beauty of it. He doesn't give us any easy answers. He wants us to question things, consider the possibility that things might not be what they seem. Remember, this is a thriller, so suspense is key. And Lee uses that ambiguity just masterfully, keeps us guessing the whole time.
Okay, so we had this growing sense of paranoia, right? But then things take a personal turn for Rob. He discovers that he was born at this place called the Mason Clinic, shrouded in mystery, and tied to all this unethical research. It's like his personal history is woven into the dark secrets of the town.
Exactly. This discovery shifts the narrative. It's not just an external investigation anymore. It becomes internal, personal. Rob isn't just uncovering a conspiracy. He's uncovering his own past, his own identity. And that opens up these fascinating questions about, memory and truth and the power of the subconscious.
And this clinic seems like kind of a hotbed of suspicious activity. We have Dr. Lydia O'Connor, a researcher who died under mysterious circumstances, and maybe it was from some rare blood disorder tied to the experiments at the clinic. And then there's Ruth Brown, this activist, who maybe has some kind of personal connection to the clinic, too.
It's like Lee is creating this web, all these seemingly unconnected individuals and these events. He's weaving them together, pulling us deeper into the mystery.
Yeah, and then there's that whole thing with the Heritage Festival. On the surface, it seems like, this charming celebration of the town's history. But
Charming. I don't know about that.
well, okay, maybe not charming. More like, I don't know, kind of creepy. There's that really unsettling, low-frequency hum emanating from this old oak tree. And the rituals during the festival, I don't know, it feels less like a joyful celebration and more like, they're trying to appease these unseen forces.
Yeah.
What do you think? What's going on with that symbolism?
I think it's brilliant because he takes something, seemingly innocent and he twists it into something really unsettling. So the festival, which should evoke this feeling of community and tradition, becomes a symbol of the town's blind acceptance, this blind adherence to the status quo, even though there's all this evidence that something's really wrong.
And that humming sounds like the town itself is groaning under the weight of all its secrets. I'm getting chills just thinking about it. But it gets even more intense because then Rob's friend Scooter, he uncovers these hidden documents, and they expose this thing called Project Genesis, and there's potentially mind control experiments happening at the Mason Clinic.
Oh,
It's
that's
like
weird.
straight out of some sci-fi thriller.
But these documents, they're not just some random plot device. They tap into real-world anxieties about technology, right? About its potential for control. Think about it. All the data we just willingly hand over every day to corporations and governments, what if it's being used against us in ways that we can't even comprehend?
Yeah, it's kind of a chilling thought. And then just when you think it can't get any crazier, Rob's other friend, Russell, he drops this bombshell about the Bilderberg Group.
This is where Lee blends fact and fiction in this really unsettling way. The Bilderberg Group, it's a real organization, they're known for these secretive meetings. All these powerful people attend, right? So it immediately adds this layer of plausibility to the story. And it makes you wonder how much of this is fiction and how much could be happening in our world.
That's what makes it so gripping. He takes these real-world anxieties and he just blows them up, turns them into this thrilling but really unsettling story.
And Russell's, insights into the Bilderbergs go even deeper. He connects them to the Annunaki. And these are ancient beings from Sumerian mythology. Now we're in this realm of ancient astronaut theories where there are these powerful forces potentially manipulating humanity, for their own ends.
Right, and this is where we meet Dr. Miles Mason, this mysterious figure who claims to be over 100 years old, and he has all this knowledge about the Anunnaki, and then he just drops this bombshell that the Glendon Hotel, this beloved local landmark, was built with these special minerals, and it might be shielding the town from these malevolent forces.
I know, what a twist. And again, you see Lee's mastery of symbolism. The Glendon Hotel, the symbol of the town's history and resilience. Now it's a potential protective barrier, right? Hinting at this hidden world beyond our perception.
It's like he keeps pulling back the curtain, revealing these layers of deception,
Yes.
all these hidden agendas.
Right, and just when you think you're starting to get it, starting to understand what's going on.
Dr. Mason reveals that the depot's true purpose is to build a weapon, but it's a weapon for the Anunnaki to control humanity. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
Rob and Ruth and this other character, Keith, they're all trying desperately to expose the truth, but they're up against some powerful forces, these people who will stop at nothing to protect their secrets.
It's like the classic thriller setup.
Right.
The heroes are outnumbered, outgunned, they're racing against time to try and prevent a global catastrophe. And then, just when you think the stakes can't get any higher, this new player arrives. This being called JD.
Yeah, JD claims to be the creator of humanity, and he reveals that the Anunnaki, they need human labor for their own survival. It changes everything.
It does. It takes the conflict and expands it. You
Yeah.
know, it's not just this earthly conspiracy anymore. It's this cosmic battle for survival. And it raises these profound questions, about our origins, our place in the universe, the very nature of free will.
Wow, and then that twist.
A twist that we're not going to spoil just yet.
But let's just say it leaves us grappling with the very nature of reality and the power of belief.
It really is like a hall of mirrors, isn't it? Shadows of deception. It's like just when you think you've caught a glimpse of, the truth, there's another layer of deception.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's wild. But it's also it's so compelling. I don't know, I found myself just constantly questioning everything, not just in the story, but in my own life too.
I think that's exactly what he's going for. Lee Murphy, I think he's using this thriller framework, right, and to explore the nature of belief itself, and how easy it is for our perceptions to be manipulated.
Okay, let's talk about some of those manipulations within the story. We've got the government and all their secrecy surrounding the depot, and then there's the mind control experiments, and then the Bilderberg Group pulling strings from the shadows. Oh, and the Anunnaki. It's how much can one town handle?
And it's presented in this way that feels, I don't know, it feels kind of outlandish, but then at the same time, it feels disturbingly plausible.
Right.
Think about those hidden documents, the ones that Scooter finds, right? They point to this thing called Project Genesis, which seems to involve manipulating human DNA. So, naturally it taps into all these real world anxieties about genetic engineering, the good and bad that can come with that,
Okay, I have to admit something. When the Anunnaki were introduced, I was a little lost. Like, who are these guys? Can you break it down for our listeners?
Sure. The Anunnaki, they come from ancient Sumerian mythology. Often they're like depicted as these powerful deities who are like instrumental in creating humanity. But in Shadows of Deception, they're more like these advanced beings. Maybe they tinkered with human evolution, for their own purposes. And now, well, now they're coming back.
So they're like, I don't know, these puppet masters,
Yeah.
just pulling the strings from behind the scenes.
Exactly. And Lee doesn't shy away from how unsettling that idea is. Like, think about that whole Heritage Festival, right?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be this celebration of the town's history, but then you realize it might be a ritual to, like, appease these unseen forces. Like, the town is in on it, complicit in its own manipulation. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's creepy. And it makes you wonder, are we all complicit in some way? How much control do we really have over our own lives, our beliefs even?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And, Lee doesn't really give us any easy answers, but he definitely makes us confront these possibilities, these uncomfortable possibilities. And he does it through these really, really well-developed characters.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about it. Right. I mean, come on, he's such a great character. He's strong, but then also vulnerable at the same time. He's ex-CIA, so resourceful and all, but he's also struggling with his past and these, like, unsettling truths that he keeps uncovering.
Yeah, and that makes him relatable, right? He's not just this superhero. He's a real person with flaws trying to, I don't know, just trying to make sense of everything, trying to make sense of this world that's suddenly become really strange and really dangerous.
And then Ruth Brown. She's like, I don't know, she's a force of nature, I swear. She's this fearless activist who's been battling the depot, like, forever.
She's like the archetype, the person who just refuses to be silenced, even when it seems like everyone is against her. I think, she reminds us that even in these like dark times, there's always going to be people who stand up for what they believe in.
I love that. It's
Yeah.
inspiring.
Yeah.
Seriously. And then there's Dr. Miles Mason. He's such a mystery, such an enigma. Over 100 years old, knowledge about the Anunnaki, those special minerals protecting the town. Like, what's his deal?
I think Dr. Mason, he represents that ambiguity that runs through the whole book. Like, is he a good guy, this benevolent, wise, protective figure? Or is he manipulating everyone, orchestrating everything for his own weird, mysterious reasons? It's up to the reader to decide.
It's true. He's like dangling this puzzle, and we're just like trying to figure it out. And those pieces, they're not just like plot points, but there's also all this symbolism, and these metaphors, like that humming sound coming from the oak tree. That's more than just like a spooky detail, right?
Right. It's a great example of using sensory details to build atmosphere and foreshadowing. The humming represents all those forces at play, the things we can't see. That growing sense of unease in the town is like the earth itself is, I don't know, it's like it's vibrating with the truth.
And speaking of hidden truth,
Yeah.
I mean, that climax, the depot's real purpose, they're building a weapon to control humanity. For the Anunnaki, I mean, how scary is that?
It's the culmination of all those anxieties that have been building and building and building, that we're not really in control, that there are these powerful forces using us for their own gain.
And just when you think it can't get worse, here comes JD, this
He's
being
so
who
new.
created humanity. And I mean, it throws everything we thought we knew just right out the window. It's mind-blowing.
It takes the story and it makes it cosmic. It's not just about this little town anymore. It's about humanity's fate. And JD's claims about the Anunnaki and how they need humans for labor, it raises all these questions, right? About our purpose, our value. What does it all mean? What's going to happen to us?
It's like Lee's asking, what if we're wrong about everything? What if we're not the top of the food chain? Like, what if we're just a resource to be used?
That's a heavy thought for sure. And it leads us right to that ending, that crazy twist.
Right, the twist that reveals, well, we're not going to spoil it for you.
Nope.
But let's just say, it makes you question everything.
Makes you think, what is real? What if it's all just an illusion? That line between sanity and madness, maybe it's not as clear as we think it is.
It really makes you think, wow. Okay, I think I've finally caught my breath after that wild ride of a story. I mean, we've talked about the government, all the secrets, Dr. Mason, and those ancient Anunnaki pulling the strings. But that ending with Rob, I mean, that really just throws everything we thought we knew, just poof, gone.
It really is the ultimate cliffhanger, isn't it? Because Lee Murphy doesn't, wrap everything up in a neat little bow. He just leaves us hanging, not knowing what to believe.
Right, and it's brilliant. because it goes straight to the heart of the whole book, the themes of control and manipulation. So, okay, if Rob's experience was real, then it means, like, there are these forces out there silencing anyone who tries to find the truth. But even if it wasn't real, even if it was just all in his head, it still shows how easy it is to, like, mess with people's perceptions. How we can just lose our grip on reality, when everyone's feeding us all this information, all this fear.
Yeah. It's a cautionary tale, for sure. For, like, the times we live in. I mean, think about it. There's so much information out there these days. Truth and lies, it's hard to even tell them apart.
It's true.
So we have to think critically, right? We can't just believe everything we hear, especially from people who, think they've got all the answers.
It's like G is saying, hey, don't be so quick to dismiss the people who are, questioning things, questioning the official story. What if they're right? What if asking questions is what gets you into trouble?
Yeah. It's scary, isn't it? Makes you wonder how much of, like, our reality is just, I don't know, just a story that someone told us. Someone in power,
So, okay, what do we do? How do we even figure this out? I mean, how do we find the truth when it feels like it's always slipping away?
I think there are some clues in the book. Like, first of all, we got to be aware of our own biases.
Yeah.
What are those filters that we use? The ones that, like, shape how we see the world. And, we have to try and get different perspectives. Listen to people who, I don't know, maybe they disagree with us. Even if it's, like, kind of uncomfortable,
And maybe the most important thing, like what Lee seems to be saying, is that we have to, trust our gut.
Yeah.
Trust our instincts. So if something feels off, like if something just doesn't add up, we can't be afraid to, I don't know, to dig deeper, ask questions, even if it means that people are going to call us, like, conspiracy theorists or whatever.
Exactly. Because sometimes the truth, it is hidden. And it takes courage to bring it out into the open.
Thinking about it now, Shadows of Deception, it's more than just a thriller. It's like a call to action. It reminds us that we all have to be a little more skeptical, question authority, fight for a world where the truth actually matters.
Absolutely. Lee's given us a gift, this story that makes us think, makes us question everything, and it helps us, see the world a little differently.
Well said. So, as you all head back out into the world, keep your eyes open, question everything, don't be afraid to look for the truth, even in the shadows. And we'll see you next time. Keep reading, keep those conversations going.